Hey everyone, I'm Critbuff, and today I'll be going over my build for the Way of 1,000 Cuts Hunter subclass. This build will focus on certain exotics, but the good news is you can now buy Forsaken exotics from Xur. Just keep going back on your hunter every week until you get the ones you need. This build is mainly a PvE loadout. It could work in PvP if you're amazing with your throwing knives, I'm not, but considering how tricky it can be to land hits with this ability, I prefer to use this in PvE. This build also requires a bit of setup, but it's a fun and easy way to very quickly get your super. We'll start by focusing on the Ophidia Spaith. This exotic grants you 2 knives per melee charge. This perk works differently from other exotic armor pieces like it, because you only need to recharge your melee energy once to get both charges back. For military gunslingers, that means you'll get 2 charges of your knife trick melee ability, throwing a fan of flaming knives that burn targets on hit. Killing the target while it's burning will proc the Playing with Fire perk. This perk recharges your knife trick melee ability much faster than it normally does, and stacks up to 3 times. For reference, the base melee recharge time is 96 seconds. With 1 stack of Playing with Fire, you'll shorten that down to 12.5 seconds. With 2 stacks, you'll get your knives back in 7 seconds, and with 3, you'll get your knife trick back in 5 seconds. These stacks last for 15 seconds every time you proc the perk. You can take advantage of all these throwing knives by equipping a helmet with the hands-on perk, which rewards super energy for melee kills. Next, we'll combine the bonus throwing knives from Ophidia Spaith and Playing with Fire with the Burning Edge perk. While enemies burn, your dodge ability recharges much faster. More dodging means we can get our melee ability back instantly with the Gambler's Dodge when we dodge near enemies. It gets even better when paired with the Dynamo perk found on boots, which gives you super energy when dodging near enemies. The loop for this build goes like this. You use throwing knives against weaker enemies to kill them for super energy from hands-on, or to charge your dodge ability when used against majors and ultras. Then use your Gambler's Dodge or Playing with Fire stacks to recharge your knife trick and gain some super energy from Dynamo. Rinse and repeat this process until you have your Blade Barrage ready. You can use incendiary grenades against tougher enemies to burn them for dodge energy if you need it. You can also equip the exotic trace rifle, the Prometheus lens, as its solar damage beam recharges your dodge energy through the Burning Edge perk. This basically acts as insurance in case you mess up your loop and need to get your dodge back quickly. For mods, I recommend going with whatever you prefer, but avoid stacking too many melee or paragon mods. Those would just be overkill on top of what this subclass already does naturally. If you don't have the Ophidia, you can use the 6th Coyote to do exactly the same thing, but with 2 charges of dodge instead of 2 charges of knives. Your playstyle would be the same as it was before, but instead, you'll dodge more often during your play loop to proc Gambler's Dodge to get your knives back. The only downside to using the Coyote over Ophidia's is that you'll have to wait for both charges of dodge individually. The biggest benefit to this build over something like Shards of Galanor is that you won't waste your exotic perk if you die after using Blade Barrage. One of the most frustrating things about using Shards of Galanor is dying while you wait for your super refreshing buff to finish. This build doesn't have that same built-in weakness. If you are stuck waiting for your dodge energy, you can just use Prometheus lens to get it right back and start again, or you can use a grenade. The only real downside to this build is that your teammates can steal your kills before you get in range to throw your knives. Thankfully, there's Gambler's Dodge to help fix that issue if you have a dodge charge available. I love this build because it's consistent. These exotics quickly charge your super while also improving your neutral game. I know players tend to prefer exotics like the Shards of Galanor because it directly affects their super, but these kinds of exotics are constantly being adjusted. Their performance isn't consistent between updates. I prefer exotics like the Ophidia and the Coyote because they're consistently powerful without wandering into overpowered territory. You rarely, if ever, hear the community calling for nerfs to these exotics because far fewer people notice their power. Players might say these 2 pieces don't feel exotic, but that's because they don't go past their initial impressions. That's all for today, Guardians. I hope this video helped those of you without the Shards of Galanor to feel more empowered using your military solar hunters. If you have any thoughts or questions about the build, you can find me on Twitter @Critbuff, or you can leave a question below in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.